Welcome to our Enterprise Blockchain, the Path to Monetization workshop. My name is Guido Molinari, and I'm the managing partner at Prysm Group. In today's workshop, we are going to be discussing with a number of industry leaders that are going to be joining us over the next 3 hours. I'm going to be kicking things off with a brief introduction about us, Prysm Group, and presenting a couple of frameworks that we can use when thinking about some of the insights that the various speakers are going to be sharing with us this afternoon. And then I'm going to be leading the first set of fireside chats, where we're going to have joining us Mariana Gomez de la Villa from ING Bank, Dimitro Migliorati from Banca Mediolanum, Olaf Ransom from Finality International, and Riccardo Turbiani from Microsoft. After that, I'm going to be giving the floor to my colleague Cataldo, who is going to be hosting a session with speakers joining us from Ireland and the US Coast. We're going to be having with us Ciaran McGowan from we.trade, Shyam Nagarajan from IBM, Chen Zher from Ernst & Young, and Daniel Wilson from TradeLens, and Mark Treshock from IBM Pharmaceutical Utility Network. After that, I'm going to be coming back, and with me, there's going to be another set of speakers joining us from the US Midwest and the Rockies. Among them, there's going to be Adam Kaplan from Salesforce, Merrick Vass from United Healthcare, the Synaptic Health Alliance, and David Post from IBM, Trust Your Supplier. We're going to then take some key takeaways together with Kathy Barrera, our founding economist at Prysm Group, and we're going to draw some conclusions together from today's workshop.
I'm looking forward to the next speaker that we have on. It's Ciaran McGowan. He's of we.trade. He's the CEO. He's located in Dublin. We have Ciaran joining us now. Ciaran joined the we.trade project just about a year ago in May 2019. He has experience across the banking industry, the airline industry, pharmaceutical industries. He holds degrees in both management and computer science as well. So thank you very much, Ciaran, for joining us.
Hi, Reid. Looking forward to our fireside chat.
Great. If you wouldn't mind, just for the audience out there who's not familiar with we.trade, if you could give a 60-second overview of the project.
Yeah, we.trade is a secure digital platform, really making it easier for buyers and sellers to trade globally. And it's targeted or focused on merchants who traditionally didn't have access to bank guarantees or invoice financing or credit insurance, really to enhance their cash flow. So if I give you a few examples, perhaps from a buyer perspective, they may be forced to make a prepayment, or perhaps the relationship with their seller has broken down because they failed to pay on time, or perhaps a letter of credit was demanded by the seller, but it was too expensive. Then from the seller side, if you think of things like constant late payment of invoices where corporates are taking just too long to pay you, or perhaps a credit insurance limit has been reached, or perhaps even a cyber fraud example where a hacker has compromised your accounting system and your invoices are going out with the wrong account number and the money's going into a fraudster's account. So here's many examples where we.trade can address each of those problems. Effectively, if you think we're digitizing the traditional purchase order, the traditional bank draft, and a business loan. And you're encapsulating those three items so that when the conditions of a legal contract are met in a digital way, the payment is triggered. And it's kind of like a digital version of a bank draft because it's the buyer's bank is paying the seller in that case. So that's just an example of how it works.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ciaran. Very happy to have you on today. First question we have is, you recently passed a critical threshold in terms of security requirements, kind of a POC with some of the initial banking partners that you had. During that process, I'd imagine there was a number of items or changes that you guys had to address as a platform due to preferences of this more maybe conservative industry. How did you prioritize what needed to be done immediately and maybe what could wait till later? How would you say that you've been, and also would you say you've been more focused on budget or revenue?
So initially, I guess we got a few things right, Reid. So things like we decided to build an open platform. We decided to come on with disruptive products. We decided to start small and focus on particular banking products and a particular market, the SMEs. But at the same time, we made a number of mistakes. So for example, on the governance side, I don't think we had the right governance structure initially, but we've learned through that. So we had councils where there was lots of talk and lots of ideas, and but maybe not so much action. So, and I think part of the problem was the team in we.trade was too small. So we had to restructure to really put a strong senior team in place to take ownership of things like security, innovation and technology, commercialization, and legal, for example, a legal rule book we had to build. So putting that governance structure in place, also the board because the team was so small, tended to be more operationally focused, where now as we have a strong senior team in place taking ownership and responsibility, the board is more focused on strategic items like who do we partner with, what industries are we going to connect into next. The other mistake we would have made was around the standards, and the vision was clear that we wanted to have a network of networks in an open platform, but we didn't particularly build it like that initially. So we had to re-architect to look at standards for purchase orders, standards for invoices, standards for logistics. The other thing is, in terms of infrastructure, I do think that perhaps we over-engineered it and we built the Ferrari when perhaps it was overkill. And we've had to look at, how can we optimize? How can we be more effective in terms of the whole infrastructure and how that's put together? The other thing is, I'm not sure that it was so easy for banks to be onboarded or merchants to be onboarded. So we really worked on re-architecting to address those two issues to make it easier for both banks and merchants to onboard. And then the other thing was, in terms of the value proposition is very clear for everybody, but we can't work on it all at the same time. So we had to really organize it that we focused initially on getting things right for the banks. And you mentioned, Reid, there, the security. So the security, the bar was really, really high. And for a number of banks, they weren't prepared to really take a risk when it came to security. And I can understand that there's been many penalties for the banks down through the years. So we did a roadshow around all the banks, probably 2 or 3 times, to capture all the security and compliance requirements. And I'm delighted, as you mentioned, Reid, we've reached that milestone. So we're at a stage now, Reid, where the foundations are in place. So we've addressed the governance, we've delivered the legal rule book, we've built a solid foundation. So all the banks are fully integrated. We've got good customer feedback in terms of what the merchants need. So that's really the next phase for us, Reid, is having addressed the issues, particularly the security, compliance, legal for the banks. Now it's how do we fix things for the merchants? Because we've done 500 transactions in our first year, and we really listened closely to those merchants to learn, well, from using we.trade, there was kind of one-shot wonders who might have done one trade. Why did they only do one trade? How do we get them to come back? So one of the key messages there was they want integration to their accounting systems. So their accounting systems, they're putting in invoices, they're putting in purchase orders, and they really don't want to have to duplicate that in our system. So an integration with their accounting system is a critical piece. They also said that perhaps a number of their European customers they trust, but they prefer to see connectivity further afield to Asia, to Latin America, to Africa, for example. So growing that connectivity globally is a very important part for us. Trader directory was another thing, feedback that your trader directory isn't good enough. We want a better search facility, better filtering facility. So we're building that. So I'd say year 1, 500 transactions, we got the security compliance right for the banks. Year 2, our target is to get to 1,500 transactions, to triple it, but to really fix it for the merchants. So insurance, for example, is another thing that the merchants have demanded and said, to make it a real ecosystem, that open platform, it's combining the banking products with the insurance and the logistics. So we're kind of very satisfied with what we've achieved to date, and we're really on the road now to scaling.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Ciaran. I'm almost tempted to just let you keep talking, but maybe a journalist will reach out to you, because there was a lot to learn for specifically your project, your industry, but some of those learnings I'm sure transcend across different industries. So thank you very much for that insight. lot of key things to take away from that. So next question I have, you mentioned about transactions. So you guys have hit a great milestone recently of 500 transactions. You expect to complete about 1,500 before the year's end. And then next year, 2021, we're looking at about 10 to 30,000 transactions. So that's really great to see. So moving from mainnet stage to scale stage, how are you guys reassessing maybe your balance sheet or your product pricing strategy? I know that you guys are now looking to add on the insurance component as well. That's really demanded by the customers per se. Yeah, how can you maybe more look to monetize the network, or are you still looking to make it perfect before you capture the actual monetary value?
Yeah, so our business model is broken into three main parts. So there's the onboarding, which is we charge some fees really for connecting to the banks. So that's integrating with their payment rails, integrating with the two-factor authentication for secure onboarding. Second part is an annual license fee, and that primarily covers your infrastructure, your hosting, your cryptography, and also your support. And then the third element is transaction fees. Now, of course, with 500 transactions, we're not going to be able to cover all the development work with our transaction fees. So really, the plan is to get investment to cover the new build. The license fees, the onboarding fees covers the infrastructure and the support. And by 2023, our transaction fees will cover any new developments. So really, it's just covering that 2-year gap effectively for investment. And I'm delighted to say that our existing shareholders have reinvested in the company only this month. So again, in COVID-19 times, to have shareholders like that reinvesting more money, it's great to see their support and their enthusiasm for the platform.
That's excellent. Thank you, Ciaran. Yeah, we see difference in strategy in terms of from the bootstrapping phase to steady state. So it looks like you guys are going through that right now. Looking over, we have about 3 minutes left. Love to keep you on for more. Looking over at the crisis going on in the world of COVID-19, you guys have actually just made a recent announcement, major announcement this week with your partner IBM. It looks like you're keeping momentum this pandemic, which I think speaks volumes to the offering and service that you guys are providing. What's the focus for the next 4 months? How do you guys pivot your strategy in order to make as much success possible over this difficult time?
Yeah, I think it's, I mentioned their standards, so we want to contribute to standards so we can ensure that interconnectivity. I know that the International Chamber of Commerce have been focusing on changing the legal side of things, the law, so that to make digital trade part of law so that it's more effective. And we've been really making sure that our rule book contributes towards that in terms of legal side. I think the disruptive nature of the products is something that we're finding that the COVID-19, the drive towards digital, people won't be as easy to hop on a plane to create a new partner in Asia, for example. So having a platform like this that really provides trust and security, it's packed full of trust, that's going to be really, I suppose, enhance the demand for the platform. So we'll continue to work on standards, continue to drive towards interoperability. So I think I mentioned the different phases. We've got it right for the banks, we're getting it right for the merchants, and then the next phase really will be connectivity to multiple other platforms. So whether it's other trade finance platforms, be they competitive or collaborative type platforms, logistics platforms, and so on. So it's really about growing that network of networks.
Thank you, Ciaran. Well, we look very much forward to hearing more success about the we.trade platform, and thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Nice talking to you, Reed.